Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Farmer at Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day recap for Tuesday, July 11th. Welcome to today's recap. Make sure that you read the risk disclaimer right here in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. So another interesting day on our hands. I think similar to yesterday, some strength came into the market in the last hour. But once again, it was the small caps that are doing the heavy lifting. They were up 1% for the day. The Qs for most of the session was underperforming right around flat to up about 1/4 percentage point, and more of that index rebalance that we've been hearing about that will be announced on Friday. More of that kind of getting the rounds, and some of those mega cap tech names underperforming a touch, but wow, there is so much performance and relative strength in some other areas of the market, which we will go through in this video. And SPY was basically right in the middle of that, up 60 basis points ahead of tomorrow's CPI report. So really, again, some areas that really excelled today, and some nice trending names, which we will go through a few of them. I want to talk about the indices first, because that's what we normally go through, and then I will also talk about names that made 52-week highs today. But notice where we stopped for the day. So remember last Friday, just two business days ago, and I was out for a majority of last week, and I remember seeing the market around the highs lunchtime, and then the market sold off, not on any particular news, I don't believe, on Friday, but sometimes the market just is not ready to take that next step. So after the test of the 20-day moving average yesterday, we're basically back to those highs from Friday, and you've got a nice level to watch. Interesting that we closed right around the top of value for the month of July, right? So if we start to kind of break higher, right, we're back into price discovery for the month. So remember, this is where we started the month. We've dipped again for the second time in a couple of weeks, and very methodical. And I don't want to say or jinx it or get too comfortable with this market. We always want to stay on our toes here, but if we could break 44.71, then I think that we're back out to new highs for the year. All right, here's what the Qs look like. Again, a little bit not as advanced as what we just looked at with the S&P. They're still kind of more inside the value area and decently below where Wednesday was. But again, I think that you have to just realize that those big names, again, I hate to use this term, but the magnificent seven names are right now holding back or holding back the performance of the index because of that situation. Again, if you want to look at the equally weighted Qs, you could see they're out to fresh highs for the year. So again, same index members that are in the Qs, right? The same 100 names, but when you reweight them differently, you have different performance. And and what the saying that brings to mind is, when you see something like this, where the equally weighted Qs has been outperforming drastically this week, the Qs, right? We call that a lot of strength underneath the hood of what's going on. So a lot of good trading opportunities. I particularly like when the market, when the overall indexes kind of chop around a little bit, and you're seeing a lot of single name setups. Just to go through here, really impressive from where we were last week. I feel like IWM has been doing this quite a bit, where it just kind of streaks for a couple days, right? Up, then down, then up, then down. And then, right now, as it stands, I believe this is the multi-month highs going back from where we were back in March. So it has been making some progress here. And also notice, if you're into this type of thing, you got the 50-day moving average crossing above the 200-day moving average. So that's something. Even though I don't really like a flat 200-day moving average, the 50-day moving average is rising and crossing above that 200-day moving average. Let's talk about some sectors, and then we will talk about some individual names. But what was the strongest sector or subsector was oil services. Remember, those showed some strength on Friday and have kind of added to those gains. It took a little bit of a breather yesterday, but you could see, as I think we went over the crude chart in yesterday's video, but we certainly go over it every pre-market session at Tribeca Trade Group. And we are making this move here out of the value area. Also, if you want to talk about, 20-day moving average crossing above slower moving 50-day moving average. So there's some strength coming into energy and into crude, which has not been above its 50-day moving average since all the way back in April. And so you've got some nice strength here. Here's what OIH looks like. We are seeing some call activity, and it's been pretty fast moving when you look at particular names in here. I traded some BKR today, which I'm still holding. Again, I always go towards it where there's relative strength, but this is a breakout of here. Another name that's been really strong is this Weatherford, which is out to, I believe I'm not sure if it's all-time, I guess it is all-time highs, but really strong in there. And then another name too, that I like is this TDW, which looks like it's on the move again as well. This is Tidewater. All right, so plenty of names within energy. Again, that was your best performing group. Also HES, also just freshly breaking that trend line that I've got drawn, as well as the value area, as well as breaking above the 200-day moving average. So a lot of things going on here. Ultimately, I think that HES could get up to 143.50, which is about another $4 in front of it. So that was your best performing group for the day, up 3.5%. Also, steel names continue to act really well, and transports are up there. We did have good strength out of internet. There's a bunch of different stories that happened today in that group, including that it looks like Microsoft will get approval to purchase Activision. So again, a lot of little stories like wrapped up in today's in today's market, and of course that giving a lift to all types of gaming stocks and anything to do with look at a Unity Software was very strong today. Nice pivot there at the 20-day moving average, up about 9%. Also Take-Two, I think also made it out to, let's just bring this up again. Sometimes Thinkorswim hesitates here, but that's also highs for the year as well. EA was also on the move today. Big candle there in EA. So Catalyst was this story. But if you go through, Roku had a nice story out too that was announced. That, again, look at this name that's basically been in this range for a while and has really been starting to get out of it. They announced that I believe that you could use purchases through the Roku, but look at the volume on that name today. Very, very strong, right? And then we'll also talk about a name that we talked a little bit about, in yesterday's video. Salesforce. We were talking about how the price action was really bunched up, as well as we saw a big call buyer towards the end of the day. They certainly kind of were onto something there as the stock was up almost 4%. And if you're looking for a target of where this could get to, I think around 230. If it wants to continue to run, and when names are this tight, when the price action is this tight, when you have this thin of a value area, that's what I would be looking at for in this name, is a move basically $9 higher and up to 230. Also, while we're on the software space, just all kinds of strength going on in here. Monday had a nice move back into the value area, and again, a 5% move. Some of these names, if you're not that familiar with, or if it's not a name that's on your high conviction list, these, take the 5%, put it in your pocket. TTG had a huge move today, right? This is up 9% today, right? A name that's been basically been going sideways for the better part of a month. So I love when this happens, when basically names go sideways for a good period of time, and then all of a sudden they take off and make their next leg higher. The value areas that we use, the TTG market webs, are really good for spotting some of these things. If you have alerts set, it's very similar to the Darvis box theory. If you've read that book, how I made what is it, $2 or $3 million in the stock market. Doesn't matter what the dollar amount is, but that's a great book to read. And they talk about, you know, trading ranges and a move out of you know, a particular box. That's exactly what we're doing with our value areas, but of course we're using statistically significant information there. So again, very significant. A few other names too, you know, just to kind of go through some sectors. I mentioned I would bring up names that made a new 52-week high today in the S&P. Let's see which screen I have this on. You could see there's quite a bit of names, 51 names in the S&P 500 that made a new 52-week high today. If you glance through these names, right? And by the way, if the screen is blurry or anything like that, you could change the resolution on YouTube videos so that you can see a little bit more clear. But I will increase this for you so that you can see it to, like, you know, so, but again, you can kind of see some themes play out, right? I'm not going to give you those themes, but you could kind of pick those out, and I will give you I'll let you think about that for a second, and then I will give you the answer. But I did put this into a spreadsheet, and you can see once again, like out of those 50 names or 51 names, excuse me, you have once again, I mean, for a smaller sector, you know, almost half those names are industrial names. So, I mean, really impressive. Oops, sorry, not that many names. I was going a little bit far into financials, but 15 names, right? So again, the second biggest group is consumer cyclical, right? You've got names like you've got the hotel names doing very well. And if you look at those charts, many of the hotel names are breaking out. Also, Airbnb. Fine, this name has been a bit of a laggard, but you know, I know a lot of people like this name, and it had some really nice strength today, you know, moving higher. But yeah, I mean, if we look at what the industrial ETF is doing, right, that's a new high for the industrials. Just a lot of strength. I did buy a little bit of Caterpillar today, breaking out of this little range here, but you know, quietly GE, you know, is out to new highs too, right? Hardly anybody talking about this name, but this name has just been methodically moving higher. A couple other names that you know, again, just going across different groups, different names. Datadog, you know, finally kind of got out of this this area. Almost looks like the Airbnb chart, but I see a VPOC up there at 107.50, which could be where this name is going. Also the housing names, right? For a while, you know, if you're a regular viewer of my video, you know, I've been talking a lot this year about the home builders, but interesting what kind of happened here, right? Even though the names are really difficult in the ETF, always a reason to kind of check out the underlying names that are in an ETF, not just the name, because this one is called home construction, and it actually has the majority of home builders that are in this ETF. And the XHB ETF, which is called home building, has more retail and construction type names and less builders in there. So it's really backwards in terms of names, but again, you have to kind of go through and take a look. But you can see there's been more strength recently that's going on in some of those other areas. For example, flooring names, right? It's kind of interesting because I put AZEK, which by the way saw a nice call buyer right at the end of the day today. Doesn't usually see a lot of calls, but you could see AZEK right at 2 minutes before the close today, about 2,000 contracts, 30 strike contracts went up. That's 136 premium. Again, not the biggest amount of premium in the world, but it's very different than, you know, seeing, you know, Salesforce calls. Like that was a $2 million order yesterday in Salesforce. But if you look at this, if you look at the flooring names, just like for instance, the hotel names all breaking out, right? You've got the same thing going on here. TREX was the name that I traded, put this trade on yesterday, and really nice performance over the last 2 days. This name's been up 8%, right? Not a software name, not a momentum name. TREX, a flooring name, right? Nice check back to the top of value and a move higher. Also, Floor & Decor has made a nice move the last couple of days. Notice the Virgin point of control taken out here, so maybe a place for a little bit of digestion. But you know, really nice looking chart. So again, as you could tell, I'm going through a lot of names here and a lot of different groups. And the last one I'll do, because I want to keep this video short, INMD. which is probably a name that you haven't heard about for a while. But why am I interested in this name? Because it is finally breaking out of this sideways move. It's also trying to break out of its value area for the year. Now, this is a weekly bar, and we still have plenty of time to go in the week. We've got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Tomorrow, we get CPI reports. But if it can maintain above 39.86, I think this is a really nice looking move for a name that's been going sideways and has kind of gotten forgotten about. I also like this IDXX, which is also like a life sciences type company, right? Similar type of move, getting back above its value area for the year, not really extended, which I like. Here's also, here's our watch list. I talked about this in yesterday's video, but I'll do it again here. Let's just see 1 second, just find this. So you could see we went over a few of these names, also the agriculture names, which I won't go over in this video, but we set this up so we're really organized at Tribeca Trade Group. And I put this list out on Wednesday. As you could see, I kind of add to it throughout the week, as I mentioned in yesterday's video. Very neat and organized. You know where the triggers are. So I send this to members so that they can track this. That's what I really try to do for Tribeca Trade Group members, is to make a nice, easy process for members to follow. The triggers are based on our indicator, and really nice if you want to take a trade, or if you're just watching names and watching strength. So that's what we give members. If you haven't tried Tribeca Trade Group, I'm going to mention this again. We do have a coupon code. You could go to tribecatradegroup.com and put in coupon code TTG 2023. Right, that's the coupon code that will give you half off your first month. A great way to check it out for the month and ask me questions. You could private message me. We have a Slack trading room where you can see all of my trades live. Last thing I'll mention is this CPI report tomorrow, right? Just to give you a sense. And then, of course, we have the PPI report that comes out the following day, but they're looking for 0.3%. Again, the most important thing is the monthly change, right? Because the year-over-year change is just, basically the addition of the last 12 months, right? That's what it is. You could argue with that calculation, but that's how it's calculated, the year over year. So really what we're looking at is the most recent data point, and we'll see how the market, handles whatever data point that comes out. But I would say if it's not a big shock, I really like what's going on in terms of the setups that we're seeing. More and more and different areas are participating, strong breadth in the market. Bonds, which I didn't talk about in this video, have been kind of going sideways, which is a real nice relief from what we saw last week with yields going higher. I would also like that to continue in terms of just bonds going sideways, yields not going higher. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.